All right, folks, it's time to address it. I've had a lot of people send me questions and ask me my opinion with respect to many of the stories that are floating around regarding Saudi Arabia and, of course, the subject of Iran. Now, for those of you that might not know or may not have heard about some of the things that are floating around in mainstream media and many other sources, there is discussion that Saudi Arabia may very well be entering into some kind of a treaty agreement with Iran or something to that effect. Now, there's a lot of discussions with respect to normalization potentially, especially with the existence of the Abraham Accords and other nations that surround Iran. And so a lot of people are saying, wow, this is very interesting that it might be moving in this direction. Well, I thought that I would shed some light on the area because the geopolitics in the Middle East are oftentimes very misunderstood. And when I spend some time to just talk about some of the basic facts, it might help us all better understand the real issues that we're actually facing. First of all, let me just simply say this. An overwhelming majority of the Middle Eastern countries that are out there are Sunni. They are not in agreement with what they see in Iran, and undoubtedly they all have one major variable that exists that they hold in common, and that is the fact that they see Iran as a threat. Iran is a common enemy, and of course that is true of Saudi Arabia. Anybody who says that that's not the case probably simply just doesn't understand what is going on in the region. Perhaps I might sort of benefit everybody by reminding you guys of the fact that the United States of America actually burned Saudi Arabia by saying that they were not going to declare the Yemeni Houthis, which the Yemenis are those to the south of Saudi Arabia, as a terrorist organization, when in reality the Houthis are a proxy of Iran seeking to destroy Saudi Arabian security interests to the southern border. Now, I think that that's a very interesting thing to consider, and it's also very important to consider the fact that there are lots of things like this all over the Middle East, right? There are lots of proxies of Iran that are functioning. Hezbollah to the north of Israel. It's very interesting, even though Hamas is not considered to be Shiite, they are Sunni, they're still acting in interest as a proxy of many of the terrorist goals that are being created by Iran. So you need to understand that many of the nations that surround Iran recognize Iran as a common enemy. And if there is anything that even remotely appears to be some sort of a peaceful resolution going on, what it is this. It's Russia holding Iran at bay and then entering into a conversation with many other Middle Eastern nations, basically saying, I'm the big man in the region now, and I'm the one that has the ability to hold Iran at bay. So let's all pretend to be playing nice with one another. Let's actually help one another with our common interests and understand Putin is looking for oil. He's looking for natural resources. He has plenty of it, but he is trying to bolster his position, especially because of what the United States and many other nations are doing around the world, which, by the way, is a huge error with respect to Ukraine. And what is actually happening right now is we are watching nothing other than Russia grow in its sphere of influence in the Middle East. So when you see a title that says, well, Saudi Arabia and Iran are getting along, maybe you should translate that title to Russia is growing in power and in influence. And folks, it should make sense because when you look at Ezekiel 38, you know exactly what the end game is going to be. And you'll know that the only real remaining superpower at that point is going to be Russia. And no one will be able to stop Russia except the Lord himself on behalf of the nation of Israel. So let's look at it for what it is, folks. This is another Russia play. It is really interesting stuff. As things develop, we'll be able to analyze it a little bit more, but don't be deceived by what the news headlines are telling you, because there's a lot of stuff happening here, folks, that do not agree with what the mainstream media says. That's just the truth. It's propagandist in nature. Take a listen to what the Bible has to say about these things and then analyze the news according to what's actually happening. And you'll get a better picture of the things that are happening, folks. There it is.